So after nearly destroying my brain in the process of reviewing Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, which is the single worst comic book film ever made, there was no way I could watch anything objectively worse after that movie. And yet, even then, I have to say that Justice League proved way better than I could have expected.
Ho 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 ho! Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today I am concluding my trilogy in the discussion of the worst depictions of Superman in film, with probably the worst example of Superman in a live-action movie, and yet not the worst Superman film. Justice League is a 2017 superhero film and the follow-up to the awful Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. This film was also directed by Zack Snyder, but then it was largely redirected by Joss Whedon. And I have to say that when I first went to see this movie at cinemas, I had no hopes whatsoever. I was going in anticipating that this movie was going to suck shit and that I was going to mock the absolute hell out of it. I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed this movie, even though I knew it wasn't all that great. I felt like this movie was a turd, but it was a polished turd. Justice League had a notoriously troubled production. After filming had wrapped, director Zack Snyder's daughter tragically committed suicide, and while he was overwhelmed by emotional grief and getting pressured by producers, he made the decision to step down as director. Joss Whedon was then hired to come in, to do some rewrites, and to shoot a lot of additional scenes. So the movie ended up being a Frankenstein of two very contrasting visions. And one of the most interesting stories to actually come out of this was the fact that when Henry Cavill, the actor who plays Superman, returned for the movie, he was denied permission by Paramount Pictures to shave the mustache that he had grown to film Mission Impossible Fallout. As a result of that, the studio had to CGI his mustache out of the film. And, oh, it did not end well. And sadly enough, that decision was made because executives at Warner Brothers were promised cash bonuses if this movie met its original release date, and shutting down production temporarily would jeopardize that. So instead, they just decided to film ahead. And, God, the messy production on this movie caused its production cost to actually balloon to a total of $300 million, making it one of the most expensive movies of all time. Unfortunately, it ended up bombing at box office, only earning a paltry $657 million back. And the response was highly divided. At the time of its release, critics considered it to be one of the best films in the DCEU, but they still considered it messy. And a lot of people felt like the tone was inconsistent, while some others felt like the tone was far more suited to this movie than Zack Snyder would have given it. Ultimately, I have to go with the latter. Justice League starts on a bad note with a video supposedly captured from a child's camera phone, yet is somehow extremely high definition and not shaky in the slightest. It also gives us a nice look at Henry Cavill's CGI mouth.
What's the best thing about planet Earth?
Hot sauce, Highlander, and eating cereal from very far away. This entire scene doesn't actually add anything, it just reminds us that Superman was once a thing. Then we cut to Batman, who incapacitates a random criminal to use him as bait for a strange anthropomorphic bug, which has been getting sighted all over the world lately.
It's time then.
Oh, already? We're gonna go and unite everyone? Can we maybe hype things up a little bit more?
It's 'cause they know he's dead, right? Superman.
Thanks for your exposition, generic criminal one. A typical Zack Snyder-style intro follows as a series of slow-motion shots reveal that the world's morale has sunk as a result of Superman's death, and crime has apparently risen once again. A group of suits go to bomb a bank, but in comes Princess Palestine.
The lasso of Hestia compels you to reveal the truth.
Okay, I started using the bathroom in the park across the street ever since my toilet broke, and even though it got repaired, I still keep doing it because it gives me an excuse to get out of the house during stage 4 lockdown.
Now, who are you?
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Wonder Woman is quick to disable all her enemies and get the bomb out of the area. We're not 10 minutes into the film yet, and already it's got some action, and for once it's actually possible to make out due to a reasonable colour scheme and a sense of lighting being used. With that in mind, this already feels like it's going to be a far better DC film.
I don't believe it. What are you?
A believer.
A believer, you say? There are people out there that believe that the Snydercut of this film is going to be better. Doesn't mean that they're right. Bruce Wayne travels across the world in search of Aquaman.
I need warriors. I'm building an alliance to defend ourselves. The Aquaman.
As the characters engage in a mix of small talk and generic plot building, one thing you'll notice is that for once, they're not talking in a series of pretentious monologues, metaphors, and political rambling. It doesn't feel like a Snyder film, and that is just wonderful. Bruce Wayne is unsuccessful trying to get Aquaman to join the team. Then we get to meet Barry Allen, or the Flash, played by Ezra Miller.
Well, you got a problem?
No, there's no problem.
Better not be.
Whether or not these jokes actually hit the mark for you, they are a way better substitute than talking about a jar of pee or about how we should stop fighting because our mothers have the same name. We also get to meet Victor Stone, or Cyborg.
Every day, I wake up different. Couldn't do that last night.
Meanwhile, back at Wonder Woman's homeworld, a strange device known as a mother box, which has been heavily guarded by the Amazonians for generations, has started emitting unprecedented energy. And in comes the film's CGI villain.
Steppenwolf.
Mother.
I think we should just be friends.
Mother.
Steppenwolf summons his bug beast to battle the Amazonians. The warriors try to escape with the mother box, but Steppenwolf proves a formidable opponent.
After the unity, you will join my legion, and you will know the righteousness of power.
Jesus, you know, whether you like the DC films or not, it seems to be a pretty consistent theme that they have terrible villains, with the exception of Shazam, of course.
What did you do this weekend, Diana?
Me? Nothing very interesting.
That's all you ever tell us.
What can I say? I'm not that exciting.
You got that right, Gadot. Wonder Woman sees an Amazonian fire signal, which can mean only one thing.
Invasion.
And Lois Lane is back, but she's as boring as ever.
I can hardly read the news anyway. So much bitterness.
Zack Snyder's actual response to people criticizing Batman v Superman.
He said that you were the thirstiest young woman that he'd ever met.
Phrasing?
He said you could smell a story further away than he could hear.
Yeah, if you could smell a good story, then you'd probably have a sense for something that's interesting, and yet the problem is you're one of the least interesting characters in the franchise. Your entire arc revolves around your obsession with another guy. With Cyborg constantly generating new abilities, one of them is suddenly accessing information that reveals Batman's true identity.
Oh, how convenient.
And Wonder Woman goes to visit Bruce Wayne.
I think there's an attack coming.
Not coming, Bruce. It's already here. They called him Steppenwolf, the end of worlds. He lived only to conquer.
Mindless destruction is the character's entire arc. That's nice, it's a really good change of pace. It's not like any of the other DC films have had characters where that's been their entire motivation. It's not like Incubus or Enchantress or Ares or Doomsday have solely related around that, right? Right? Flashbacks reveal that Steppenwolf has long been a destructive force with his army of bugs who feed off fear, and the mother boxes have always been his most effective weapon.
They don't contain power. They are power.
This damaged container here doesn't contain cherry Kool-Aid, it is cherry Kool-Aid. Give me a screenwriting Oscar. Accordingly, Steppenwolf once brought his army to Earth, but a united army of humans, Amazonians, Atlanteans, gods, and even a Green Lantern all drove him away. This scene is very exciting, which isn't something I've said about any action scenes in a DC movie so far, but unfortunately, as a flashback, it is all too brief. I feel like this would have been a better opening scene than the ugly shot of Superman. It could have given us background on the story as the first part of the narrative, which would have hyped things up better and made the reveal of the bug that Batman encounters more powerful. It also could have been extended that way, not played out as just a brief flashback. Steppenwolf declared that he would return to Earth when darkness has taken over, and his mother boxes were separated to be guarded by the Amazonians, Atlanteans, and humans. And apparently Superman's death has been the driving force behind the mother boxes. The entire world has been driven into darkness now. Yeah, but things don't feel too grim. This isn't a very atmospheric movie.
Barry Allen. Bruce Wayne.
You said that like it explains why there's a total stranger in my place, sitting in the dark, in my second favorite chair.
Already I can tell that the Flash is going to be the best character in this film. It's nice to have a self-aware character who's going to comment on the pretentiousness of a lot of these situations, and Ezra Miller's charisma is just brilliant.
Silica-based quartz sand fabric. Abrasion resistant. Heat resistant.
Yeah, I do competitive ice dancing.
It's what they use on the space shuttle to prevent it from burning up on re-entry.
I do very competitive ice dancing. Whoever you're looking for, it's not me.
This shot right here I actually love. It serves as a perfect way for the characters to both reveal themselves to each other without even needing to say a word.
You're the Batman?
I'm putting together a team. People with special abilities. You see, I believe enemies are coming.
Stop right there. I'm in.
You are?
Yeah, I need friends.
Even when some of his words are a bit try-hard, I still love this guy.
People are difficult. They require a lot of focus. They have like a rhythm that I haven't quite been able to... Like brunch. Like, what is brunch? You wait in line for an hour for essentially lunch.
Unbelievable. In this scene, Ezra Miller is basically doing an impression of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, and he's doing it better than Eisenberg did. He's playing it for comedic effect instead of pretentious dramatic effect. So he's not only discrediting Jesse Eisenberg more, but he's boosting his profile as an actor.
I am a snack hole.
Where did that pizza come from? I mean, I know he's fast, so he could have gotten it like that, but did the filmmakers literally just forget to shoot the scene where he went and got pizza? Wonder Woman goes to meet with Cyborg.
I lost someone I loved once.
Cyborg has become reclusive from the world now that he's developed into a self-proclaimed monster, and Wonder Woman encourages himself not to hide from the world. This scene would have some dramatic power if we'd been given literally any characterization for Victor Stone as a person, but he's just been a background character so far. Next we get a guy lost at sea until Arthur Curry comes in with a really badass entry, though we don't actually get to see him rescue the guy. At the Atlantean outpost, the mother boxes begin to act up, and in comes Steppenwolf again. And in a twist of irony, we get to see Amber Heard beat up by an abusive male. Doesn't feel good, does it, Amber? Aquaman dukes it out with Steppenwolf in a very brief but nonetheless well-captured and exciting action scene. Even though all the action in Justice League is over-reliant on computer-generated imagery, the action is exciting and the visual effects are very impressive. And again, everything is much more visibly coherent. Probably because Zack Snyder did not oversee any of the post-production work and thus couldn't ruin everything. And Steppenwolf is able to escape with the mother box.
You took a hell of a hit.
No, that's just what she wanted you to think. She's the one that did all the hitting. Over in Russia, Steppenwolf has started merging the power of the mother boxes.
I know, Mother. You've waited too long for the Unity.
Yeah, the word Unity gets thrown around a lot in this film, in reference to all the different teams that actually grouped together to fight against Steppenwolf originally, in reference to the Justice League itself teaming up, in reference to all the mother boxes merging, like, we get it. But there are other words you can use. And the legendary J.K. Simmons joins the film as Commissioner James Gordon.
How many of you are there?
3 medium brown.
Victor Stone's father and several other Starlab employees have been kidnapped by Steppenwolf, who has been tracking the location of the final mother box.
Oh, wow, they really just vanish. Huh? Oh. That's rude.
The guy is good. We also get this nice shot of all the great butts of the Justice League.
Nice.
The team tracks the hostages to an abandoned facility under Gotham Harbor. Near the water, how convenient for a certain character. Victor kicks things off and our heroes launch into battle, with Batman kicking ass and Wonder Woman having a sword fight with Steppenwolf. And once again, it is all actually exciting to watch. Batman also summons a robo-spider, which almost seems ridiculous, but is still believable. And the Flash helps to rescue the hostages before assisting Wonder Woman in getting her sword back and then saving her from being crushed. Steppenwolf tries to flood the room, but in comes Harold Holt to save everyone.
Finally, about damn time.
The change engine.
Did he just bail?
Cheese it! Robot house!
Cyborg disappears to claim the mother box, bringing it to the Batcave and explaining that it was used to rebuild his body following an explosion at Star Labs.
Steady built a living machine that may be stronger than its host.
With the knowledge of the mother box's power, Bruce Wayne suggests using it to bring Superman back to life, but Diana doesn't agree.
Is it a risk? Yes, but it's necessary.
Why? Because of your guilt?
Why do people keep pretending she's a good Wonder Woman? I just don't see it.
At some point, even you have to learn to move on.
Did Steve Trevor tell you that?
Whoa, we already have Amber Heard as a cast member in this film. We don't need another woman who enjoys physically abusing men.
We are not enough. Each of us in our own way is held back, and I promise you, Steppenwolf is not out there talking about ethics. He's trying to burn down the world.
Ben Affleck was great as Bruce Wayne and Batman in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, but in Justice League, he really just phones it in. He's not necessarily bad in the film, but he's very flat and forgettable. I'm not optimistic about the Snyder Cut, but I feel like Ben Affleck might be the one thing objectively better in it. Anyway, despite everyone's ambivalence, they decide to dig up Superman and awaken him in the fluid of Zod's Kryptonian ship. And the whole sequence is a bit overdramatic considering that we know it's gonna work. And the film is very careful to show minimal close-ups of Superman's face, because that way the visual effects team don't have to work so much on trying to hide his mustache. Superman is resurrected, but things don't seem right, and Victor's automated self-defense system goes haywire, triggering him to attack Superman, who becomes the Arthur meme again.
It's not my fault.
He attacks the team. Diana tries to help him remember who he is, but proves unsuccessful. He wards off the entire team at once, and the Flash tries to get him, but Barry quickly learns that he might not be the fastest man on Earth. And coming face to face with Batman brings out some bad memories.
Tell me. Do you bleed?
This line wasn't good the first time. Why did they bring it back? But it's okay, because in comes Zack Snyder's favorite female plot device to miraculously calm Superman before the two fly away.
Oh, something is definitely bleeding.
Alright, whether or not you laugh at this line or not, the simple fact is that the line is so fucking pretentious, so the fact that this line turns it into a joke is a pretty valid commentary, honestly. And amid the confusion, Steppenwolf emerges with the last mother box. Things take a downturn here as Superman returns to Smallville to regain his memories. First we have a fairly emotionless conversation between Bruce Wayne and Diana, which is just obligatory and without any soul. And then we get Clark Kent and Lois Lane having their own meaningless conversation against a green screen farm. Whether or not this scene itself is the work of Zack Snyder or Joss Whedon, the simple fact is that Superman is the absolute worst character in the DC Extended Universe. Seriously, Henry Cavill has none of the charm that Christopher Reeve or even Brandon Routh brought to the character. The fact that the low point of this movie is when Superman is actually brought in says everything. I was much happier when he was dead. All I can do in this scene is stare at his disfigured CGI mouth. It has more character than the rest of him does.
Like I have to go and dig up. Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
Meanwhile, Steppenwolf merges his 3 mother boxes.
Praise to the Unity.
Drink every time the word Unity is said, or mother.
Praise to the Mother of Horrors.
No, if you saw my video, you'd know that I don't have any praise for Batman v Superman. Also, drink. The team travels to Russia, where Steppenwolf's power has begun to change the landscape.
Let them come.
Phrasing, mother.
We're 91 minutes into the film at this point, and we're just about to have the climactic action finale. I want to contrast this to the Snyder cut of Batman v Superman, where at this point in the film we were halfway through the movie, but still 30 minutes away from seeing Batman actually fight Superman. And this is why I maintain that the Snyder cut of Justice League is going to suck ass, because that movie is going to be released as a 4-hour version. That is going to be slower than one of those walking shots in a Michael Bay movie. Batman is able to breach the field surrounding Steppenwolf's fortress.
That broached the field right there. That broached the field right there. That's what broached the field.
After breaking the shield down, he leads the bugs on a chase.
They're coming.
Phrasing.
They're all coming.
Hey, phrasing!
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah!
This isn't the plan.
No, Master Wayne.
This is the team.
Did that line sound good on paper? Because in execution it's really lame. The action scene proves to be yet another exciting one. Batman gets caught in a car chase and swings his way into action, while Aquaman battles demonic bugs in the sky with his trident and surfs them to the ground. And Wonder Woman engages Steppenwolf in another sword fight. Barry Allen even gets in the fight with his super speed.
Yes! It was gross! Oh!
And Cyborg merges with the mother boxes in an effort to separate them. This scene shows off all the heroes kicking ass with their variety of individual skills, and while it isn't as groundbreaking as the Avengers was, it's still a kick-ass experience. There are occasional moments where Justice League turns into a Man of Steel-esque disaster film as the locals flee from the danger of the changing climate, but the film spends little time focusing on this. Despite everyone's strength, Steppenwolf puts up a fight which manages to make things not exactly hopeless, but difficult. Nonetheless, the film treats us to a little bit of Deus Ex Machina.
You're all too weak to see the truth.
Well, I believe in truth. But I'm also a big fan of justice.
So you come crawling back, you cheap sack of shit.
You come back at the last second and that tacky opening line is all you've got to say. God, I really hate you. And this is the moment where Barry Allen should have looked at him and said, Superman returns. That honestly would have been funny. Now that Superman has returned to contribute minimal effort, he does the only thing he's good at, knocking people around like a rag doll.
So, how do I help?
Show up 20 minutes ago, be played by a better actor, and actually contribute something? Wonder Woman and Aquaman duke it out as a team against Steppenwolf, while the Flash and Superman race everyone to safety.
Is this guy still bothering you?
No, but you are. After tossing Steppenwolf away, Batman and Cyborg finish separating the mother boxes.
I take it back. I want to die.
I want you to. The film was much better without you.
Children. I work with children.
Ooh, I hope they're not Palestinian children. With the teamwork of Aquaman's fist, Superman's freezing cold breath, and Wonder Woman's sword, Steppenwolf becomes disabled by his own fear, which causes his own team of bugs to swarm and destroy him.
Booyah.
What it is, soul brother?
Glad I didn't miss this.
I really wish you did. And Justice League ends with Batman solving everyone's problems, buying the bank that owns the Kent family farm to give it back to Superman, and offering a recommendation for Barry Allen to get a job at Star Labs. And the credits begin to roll, 108 minutes in. Remember, at this point in Batman v Superman, the two main characters were still 14 minutes away from actually fighting, and yet in all this time, Joss Whedon has been able to tell an entire story. Wow. Also, did you guys notice a dramatic color change there? Like, everything just went from a shade of orange to a shade of blue. And that's the complete opposite of what Joss Whedon did to the film when he took it from Zack Snyder. We also get a mid-credit scene where the Flash and Superman race to see who is faster, and a post-credit scene where Deathstroke goes to meet Lex Luthor, who sadly is thus expected to have a future role in the DCEU franchise.
Shouldn't we have a league of our own?
No, you shouldn't have anything. You just suck. The end. Is Justice League a good film?
Yeah.
I have to say, Justice League keeps surprising me. The first time I watched it in cinemas, it surprised me as a fun time. The second time I watched it at home, it was not that good. But the third time, I have to say, it caught me again. Maybe that's because it's just coming off the backbone of me watching Batman v Superman, which I hated so much, but I do have to give this film credit at the same time. There's little to call groundbreaking in Justice League. Its story is generic, and it has to pick up the mess that Zack Snyder has made in the preceding films, which is probably why it takes such a safe path. But this also means that the film pays little attention to character development or dramatic substance. Since BVS forced Superman to an early grave, he practically gets written out of this film, with his return being predictable, unremarkable, and little more than a glorified cameo. And considering that Superman is basically the face of the DC franchise, the fact that Zack Snyder pushed the filmmakers into this corner and forced them to do that, that's just fucking awful. And yet what's more pathetic is the fact that whenever Superman is around, the film is that much worse. When I first saw Superman 2 as a teenager, I declared to myself that Superman had then become my favorite superhero of all time. And then by the time the Zack Snyder films had come out, I decided to give up on that entirely. I went back to calling Daredevil my favorite superhero. But now I finally settled on Rorschach, a superhero who somehow Zack Snyder actually managed to do a lot of justice to when he made his solid adaptation of Watchmen. Batman has very little to do in Justice League. He himself is little more than a plot device. We did spend a lot of time with him in BVS, so it's okay, but even then the film gave him so very little in the way of characterization outside of his feud with Batman. Ben Affleck was great in the last film, but he hardly seems to make any effort here, possibly because the reshoots don't suit his vision for the role. The Flash and Aquaman get moments of drama which prove to be just enough for them, since the majority of the time they work to provide comic relief, and both Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa have plenty of charm to do this. Wonder Woman is better in this film than she was in her solo film because Gal Gadot honestly has very limited charisma, and the film matches this by giving her very little to work with. Nonetheless, she seems more suited as a part of the team than as a solo figure. And then there's Cyborg, who you'll spend most of the time forgetting is even in the film. He has little characterization and even less to do in the action scenes, and Ray Fisher plays him as an emotionless robot, which in theory makes sense, but in practice just isn't entertaining. And then there's Superman. As I said before, Henry Cavill is the worst person to ever play Superman in a live-action film, and the fact that he has almost no screen time in this film makes me happy. The character deserved a lot more because he's so iconic, but with Snyder's vision for him being so goddamned awful, I'm just glad we don't have to deal with him as much. And Steppenwolf is a boring villain, but considering just how bad the other villains have actually been in the DC franchise, I still consider him way better than nearly any of them. Upon further analysis of the Justice League, I've come to realize that possibly the biggest problem with the film is the simple fact that there are no themes to it, like, at all. The film likes to pretend that unity is a theme by throwing the word around a lot and by having the characters, you know, form together as teams, but the relationships between them never really develop. Sure, the cast have a lot of good chemistry, which is a big aspect of the film, but it never really develops into any kind of dramatic substance. There are some moments in the film that could have given dramatic substance to the relationship between the characters, such as the scene when the Flash and Cyborg are having a conversation while digging up Superman's body, but none of it ever amounts to anything. Also, there is supposed to be end-of-the-world stakes in this film, but the narrative focuses so much strictly on the main characters and never showing us the perspective of the wider world that there never feels like a major threat looming, even though Steppenwolf is supposedly trying to destroy everything. Everything in Justice League feels incredibly workmanlike and follows a very strict formulaic path, and yet that actually works for the film so much better than Zack Snyder's vision would have. Seriously, this movie is a testament to when studio interference actually works, and this is the second time that a Superman film has actually had this happen. Richard Lester's cut of Superman 2 is way better than the director's cut done by Richard Donner. That was actually paced a lot worse and structurally just did not fall into place as well. And it is almost cruel to say that because studio interference has actually ruined a lot of films when directors had good visions for them. I mean, look at The Crow, City of Angels, Deadly Friend, or Alien 3. Directors had big visions, studios fucked them. And yet this time we have Joss Whedon to thank, which is kind of ironic because I previously talked about his work on the film Alien Resurrection, where his screenplay, which was incredibly lighthearted and comedic, was done in a different manner by the director who wanted to play it straight. And he wasn't happy with that, but honestly, the straight-edge nature of this film actually worked a lot better than Joss Whedon's vision. So he's been on both ends of the spectrum. Justice League definitely could have used a bit more ambition and dramatic substance, but what we end up getting is leagues ahead of what we could have got if we had been stuck in the event horizon of Zack Snyder's deep asshole of self-indulgence. Justice League is far from great, but it's nonetheless memorable for having a lot of exciting action sequences with a team of awesome superheroes kicking plenty of ass. Even if Cyborg and Superman aren't in there all that much, all the other characters deliver plenty of exciting moments. Yes, the action is over-reliant on CGI, but it at least uses a high standard of visual effects, and it uses them to depict exciting battles between the characters instead of a whole bunch of buildings just collapsing and exploding like in Snyder's 2 previous Superman films. I remember walking away from this film after my first viewing with a lot of optimism about the future for the DCEU, particularly about the Aquaman movie. That proved to be false hope because Aquaman proved to be very disappointing, bloated, and convoluted, and yet the DC Extended Universe ended up surprising me again when they made Shazam, simply because Shazam followed the same kind of narrative path as Justice League. It had more dramatic grounding, but it also maintained a lot of fun, a lot of humor, and a lot of great action scenes. It was trying to be a good time, which is exactly what Joss Whedon tried to do with Justice League, and exactly what Zack Snyder is determined not to give us. One scene from Justice League that I feel perfectly symbolizes the final product of the film is when the team go to rescue the Starlab employees that Steppenwolf has taken taken hostage. The Flash is ambivalent and scared, but Batman tells him to make sure that he saves at least one person. He tells the Flash that one good deed makes all the difference. And that perfectly reflects this film, because even though it doesn't have ambition or a great script or great characters, it has plenty of entertaining action and a cast that is really determined to give you a fun time. And it succeeds. This is a fun experience. Whedon's cut for this film has far less ambition than Zack Snyder's vision for Batman v Superman, but his vision was flawed and got lost in a whirlwind of sheer pretentiousness and tedious boredom over the course of 3 hours. This film, on the other hand, may lack ambition and substance, but it's an exciting experience, which is why we go to the movies in the first place. It's also only 2 hours long, making it short and sweet, which is something that Snyder clearly does not understand. And the pacing is consistently breezy and smooth. As a final note, I want to once again refer to a tweet made by Zack Snyder against critic Scott Mendelson, who said that he wasn't optimistic about Snyder's cut of Justice League. Snyder claimed that people who enjoy movies like Shazam or The Avengers are not in his demographic because he apparently makes his DCEU movies for adults. As an adult, no, Snyder, BVS is the absolute worst comic book film I have ever seen in my life. It is terribly paced, it is overly long, and it is sheerly so fucking pretentious. Now, that was a 3-hour movie. I am just anticipating what 4 hours of your storytelling is going to look like with Justice League. I would say surprise me, but I have no faith in you doing that. Justice League gets 6 terrible CGI mouths out of 10. It has no themes, no characterization, and no originality, but with a cast that has a very good chemistry between them and a lot of exciting action scenes, it proves to be one of the best DCEU films to date. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If there are any movies you want to see me discuss on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I have been your host, Jukebox Harry. Peace. Come together.